Cześć, witam Cię bardzo serdecznie w kolejnym odcineczku ze Starfielda. Zostaw kciuka, subskrypcję, dzwoneczek i robimy dalej questika dla naszych tutaj, dla naszej frakcji Zjednoczone Kolonie, Naoczny świadek.
And that must make you the Captain Hadrian mentioned in her report. You have our thanks for bringing us this information. You can imagine my surprise when I was informed you were also the agent involved in the debacle between SysDef and the Crimson Fleet. Still quite a mystery how that all went so wrong. In fact, some of Commander Ikande's few remaining compatriots even went so far as to suggest we were making a mistake granting you an audience at all, and that we should instead strap you in irons. Tell me, why would they think something like that? I guess you would, given your previous activities. Lucky for you, then, the UC has other needs for you. Let's get to business. We have two petitioners here making a surprising request. Access to the UC Xeno Warfare Team's Terramorph data, currently housed in the Armistice archives. A request which will require not just this body's agreement, but that of all three Armistice signatories. UC, Freestar Collective, and House Varun. Now, Captain, we've all read Hadrian's report on the subject, but we have yet to hear from you. Perhaps you could summarize for the Cabinet what it is you see as the goal of this endeavor.
That's quite the leap, Captain. Madam President, I object to the very premise of this meeting. While no one would argue that what happened on Tau Ceti was anything less than a tragedy, terramorph attacks are not some sudden new threat on the horizon. They've been happening for generations. To demand we hand over banned archival knowledge and possibly upset the balance of galactic diplomacy because of a single attack seems at best panic. And at worst, a power grab by the daughter of a bloodthirsty warmonger and her associates.
I would remind the chief diplomat who he's speaking to. If it's my father you're looking to address, you're welcome to consult a medium. I would also ask how many deaths the cabinet requires to act. 50? 50,000? Because if tragedies like Tau Ceti are just prelude to more attacks, I have no doubt you'll get the body count you require.
Let's keep this civil, shall we? And while there should be no doubt the preservation of life stands paramount among this body's duties, Chief Yassine has a point. Will a single attack, however troubling, be sufficient to convince the other factions to grant us access to what they no doubt consider weapon data? I don't think it's enough. Perhaps you can help, Captain. As the one who actually collected the sample in question, did this terramorph seem at all alarming to you?
That is worth considering. This attack took place on an almost completely uninhabited world. The casualties were minimal as a result. But if there's another attack, will we be so lucky?
Yes, a fine point, Admiral. So then, Captain, given the discussion now and the information you've been privy to thus far, if you were in our position, would you grant the request made to open the archives?
It doesn't matter if it can be weaponized or not. The archives need to remain sealed for now. There's no reason to rush into a decision of this magnitude.
That I hadn't thought of that, Captain.
An excellent point indeed. The other powers would likely be much more inclined to work with us knowing that. Chief Diplomat.
That point is a good one. Very well, you have my agreement. The galaxy is lucky you were here today, Captain.
You and I are in agreement, Chief Diplomat. So, if there are no other objections, I believe we can agree to give our full backing to make the request to... What was that?
Attention. An incident has occurred. Facility lockdown engaged.
Incident. Chief Sarkin, what's happening?
There's been an attack at the spaceport. Terramorphs.
Terramorphs. More attacks. Just as predicted.
Good God.
Damn it. They're here. Now.
There must be another explanation. The creatures evaded our scanner somehow.
There will be plenty of time for conjecture later. Chief Sarkin, order the evacuation of the spaceport and have your men contain the things, but do it discreetly. The last thing we need is a citywide panic.
Yes, ma'am.
Admiral Logan, the local barracks can provide support?
I'll make the order myself. Nearest anti-Xeno squad, though, is off-world. Going to take a while to bring them in.
Well then, we'll have to make do with the tools we've got. You two, we can't risk those things getting out of the spaceport. I want you both on the next train there. We'll let them know you're coming and that you've dealt with these things before. Now go show them how it's done.
We're on it, ma'am. Captain, I'm right behind you. Let's get down there.
No to dawaj. Bez problemu sobie poradzimy. Sama Sara go ubiła, więc co tam? Co to będzie dla naszej całej trójki?
That's it. Now hit him with everything you've got. Stop! What are you doing?
Not another one for me.
Czemu mam się wyposażać w tą broń? No są obezwładnieni. No tego się nie udało obezwładnić. Aha. Wolę chyba jednak mieć i tak tą broń.
Thank God you got here when you did. I just wish it hadn't come to that.
Yeah, what the hell happened back there, Captain? There's no excuse for using lethal force here. Or you could have used the EM gun like you were ordered. These are lives you're playing with here, so get your head in the game. Understand? Now, officer, the way those people were acting, I've seen this before. They were under the Terramorph's influence, weren't they?
I don't know. They were down at the port and they just started screaming. We tried to restrain them, get them on the train to get them out of harm's way, but some of the other officers down there, we couldn't restrain them fast enough. They just started firing on us. People we knew. They went berserk.
Pheromonic projection. Some terramorphs, they can induce this fog. It affects everyone differently, but some people just lose control, turn against everyone around them, even if they don't want to. They're like a puppet. You kill the morph, you break the hold. But this means we're gonna need to be real careful with our fire, and keep that EM weapon at the ready. I honestly was just wondering the same thing. But no, you don't need to worry about me. I've had a Terramorph try it on me before. I'm not susceptible. So we'll just have to make sure to watch out for each other down there. I'm not suggesting. It's documented behavior. The result of the projection, though, can vary wildly. Some folks just shrug it off. Others hallucinate. And some lose control altogether. They'll lash out at anyone around them, but still be aware while they're doing it. Those cases, you'll either need to knock them out with EM fire, or free them by killing the Terramorph. Let's do it.
That's unlocked. Please, do what you can to help them.
No dobra, ale weźmy tę broń, załóżmy, tak? Nam kazali, to ją załóżmy. Zobaczymy, czy to będzie coś dawało. Jak nie, to się kliknie tą jedynkę na klawiaturze i będzie się ich biło z normalnej broni, nie? Co się będziemy obywatelami przejmować.
Something's out there.
God, no time to waste, Captain. Stash the EM and pull some firepower. Let's move!
All citizens are required to proceed to the nearest shelter.
Już to kurwa gdzieś widziałem, jak to tak wyglądało.
You might back up. Don't just stand there. Good. Oh no! Damn it! Help! He's got another one!
Czy ja muszę go najpierw ubić? Dajmy to pod szóstkę.
Wait, officer? Like, are you and this woman... Take whatever we can get right now. We've got the remaining creatures locked down on the landing pad, but we're barely holding our perimeter. They said you've done this before, huh? Well, we've got one fire team to spare and whatever supplies you need, but I can't risk them taking over any more of my men. Put those things down and do it fast. We'll hold them as best we can.
Ile tam rzeczy leżało?
Heard you might be looking for some backup. You say the word, we're out there on your 6.
You two have any experience with Terramorphs before?
Only the brief they just gave on the way here, but we know how to handle pressure.
Surviving a full-on mental assault isn't the same as keeping your cool in a firefight. Might make you more liability than asset.
We're not UC security. You don't need to worry about us. We're not afraid, but we'll stay here and hold the line if that's what you want. You're the experts. Your call. We're on the line.
Zostańcie tu, damy sobie radę. Nalajcie, nie ma po co. Mam tylko 2, więc nalajcie. Ten nawet nie ogarnia, skąd ja napierdalam w niego, więc...
Let's do this!
What is this?
Oh God. Captain! You're going to be okay! It's not real! Whatever you're experiencing right now, it's not real! We have to put down that morph!
No ludzie. Nie zacznę w was strzelać, nie? Gdzie on tam jest? Przeładowanko. Level up, proszę bardzo.
Nice work, Captain.
It's over. Thank God. If these things reached the populated areas of the city, we would have had an absolute massacre on our hands.
Łatwiutko.
Guess they weren't kidding about you two. Universe put the right people in the right place.
Like hell it is. I don't want to think what would have happened if you two hadn't been here.
Just glad we could rise to the occasion. Captain, we should report back to the President. Let her know the Terramorphs have been dealt with. Take care of yourself, Sergeant.
Damy radę się przeteleportować szybciej. Nie. Okej. No musimy podbiec. Nie mamy wyjścia.
Attention. The spaceport has been secured. Safety precautions remain in place. Please wait for the all clear signal before exiting your home.
A, bo jeszcze jest pozamykane. Ale to piętro jest przecież pozamykane, cały ten budynek. W sensie.
That's a relief to you. Captain? Hadrian? It would appear that the Cabinet owes you our thanks for what you did for the city today. As well as an apology. Your concerns about the Terramorphs, well, consider them validated.
Thank you, ma'am.
Of course. I only wish we could have acted sooner. Now, today's events have only clarified our path forward in the eyes of the Cabinet. You will have our full support in collecting the Terramorph data from the archives, as well as a subsequent investigation into the nature of these attacks. But to accomplish those goals, we're going to need the right people in the right places. As such, the Cabinet has authorized me to reinstate you, Hadrian, effective immediately, to your former rank of Major. As soon as we've got the data in hand, we want you investigating these attacks and how to stop them. Will you do this?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. I'd be honored.
Excellent. But as you've both made clear, for such an investigation to succeed first, we're going to need someone to convince the Freestar Collective and House Varun to play ball. Someone who knows precisely the sorts of dangers the colonies and all the galaxy are facing right now. The cabinet wants you, Captain, to be that representative. We do. In exchange, we're willing to fast-track your citizenship upon collection of the data. So, will you help us? It has its perks. Only citizens can purchase property in the city. We also pay reduced prices on most goods and services across the UC. There's also a credit disbursement when you first join. Help get you on your feet. But above all, you'd become a dedicated part of the greatest faction in the galaxy. If you're willing to help us, we can open that door. I'm glad to hear it. Now, we, of course, won't be sending you in without the proper support. Deputy McIntyre in the Office of Interstellar Affairs will be your guide on gaining access to the archives. You should be able to find her in her office across the hall. And on behalf of the whole of the United Colonies, you have our thanks. You're dismissed.
The next time terrormorphs rear their ugly heads,
Okej.
going to be ready.
Tax?
No dobra, zostaliśmy członkiem, ta gwardii. Siema, typiaro. Mogę ci coś stąd zajumać? Podręcznik. Trwale zmniejsza ilość paliwa niezbędną do skoku grawitacyjnego o kolejny 1%. No i to mi się podoba. Siema, typiaro.
That must make you our new envoy. Welcome to Interstellar Affairs. I'm Deputy Chief Diplomat McIntyre, Chief Yassine's second in command. And you're someone I've already heard plenty about. One of the few survivors of the SysDef debacle and defender of New Atlantis. Not sure if I should duck for cover around you or shake your hand, but you have my thanks for what you did for the city regardless. I was also informed that you gave quite the presentation to the cabinet. Chief Yassine wants you to know the Interstellar Affairs Office is fully committed to this endeavor, accessing the Terramorph data and beyond. We're going to do everything in our power to make sure you have the tools you need. And that means first getting you into the archives. You do know what the archives are, correct?
Huh. All right, we'll start at the beginning. When the Colony War ended, the UC and Freestar Collective came to the agreement some weapons needed to be off limits. Mechs, xenowarfare. So they gathered up all the relevant research materials and sealed that information away. Terramorph data included, in the archives here in the city. Access to the archives is only granted in cases of dire emergency and requires a one-time use code from each of the 3 Armistice signatories. UC, Freestar Collective, and House Va'ruun.
Now, the UC is already on board, so that means we'll need to convince 2 people. The ambassadors of the Freestar Collective and House Va'ruun to hand over their codes. Get them both and you'll have your data. But that's a lot easier said than done. No. Each is a strip of several million random numbers generated on the fly based on biometric keys kept by each of the ambassadors on their person at all times. They're impossible to create without those keys, and those keys stay with the ambassadors, meaning we're accessing nothing if we can't get them on our side. It won't be.
Both ambassadors have reasons they won't, or can't, work with us. Now, I'll provide guidance on how we believe you can acquire each code, but ultimately, it'll be up to you to get them both to cooperate.
And I do mean cooperate. Threats and violence are off the table here. Though that doesn't mean we can't get creative.
But it does mean we need to get you up to speed on who you're dealing with. Who do you want to start with? Ambassador Radcliffe of Freestar, or Ambassador Balmore of House Va'ruun? Ah, the good Ambassador Ratcliffe. She's a veteran of the Colony War, and her only goal in life is to make ours miserable.
If Sam is any example of how stubborn the Freestar people can be, then I can imagine how difficult it must be dealing with this ambassador.
Now, officially, our office is suggesting you try and negotiate with her.
Use your experiences as a member of the military and with the threat we're facing to convince her to lend her support.
And who knows? Maybe that'll work. Stranger things have happened. But my suspicion is we're going to have to rely on other tools to get her code. Huh. Well, if that's the case, I'll wait to be pleasantly surprised. But we do have one item up our sleeve. UC Intelligence has a recording device planted in the ambassador's living quarters, which we suspect you can use to your advantage.
But getting caught trespassing is a quick way to land yourself in an embassy holding cell.
So, if you are going to try and access the device, you're going to need to find a way in there without being seen.
Now, we recovered some intel we believe should be able to help with that. But there's also a disgruntled staff member you might be able to pump for information. Maybe even convince to work with you.
Name's Cameron Long. He's younger than Ratcliffe, bears less of a grudge towards the UC. He works closely with the ambassador, making him a promising source for information on the ins and outs of embassy life, and someone who very likely hates her guts.
Yes, many. Don't steal anything. Don't get caught anywhere you're not supposed to. Absolutely do not harm anyone. If something goes wrong, we'll do our best to smooth things over, but I can't make any promises.
All right. Here, your diplomatic ID. I'll give them a heads up you're on your way. Not likely to let you through the door otherwise.
And take these. Chief Yassine wanted you to have some options on how to proceed in there.
Ambassador Balmore's a challenge. When the rest of House Varun retreated into seclusion shortly after the signing of the armistice, Balmore stayed here. He's since lent his support to a small number of archival requests, so there's real hope he might again. Though claiming to know how a member of House Varun thinks is a quick way to earn yourself a psych eval.
Well, these days, they're primarily considered a security threat. House Varun Zealots, a fundamentalist outshoot of the group that stayed behind when the rest retreated into seclusion, want nothing more than to send everyone not dedicated to their cause to the great serpent in the sky. But that hasn't always been the case. After they ended the Serpent's Crusade about 70 years back, House Varun did take a real run at trying to normalize relations with the rest of the galaxy. It's why they have an embassy here in the first place, why they were included in the armistice negotiations. But then, without warning, they left, leaving behind, to our knowledge, just the ambassador and his duty under the armistice.
Now hold on a moment. There's no reason to assume we're better than they are, despite their cultural beliefs.
They certainly come with a checkered past, but there's an additional wrinkle. We're not 100% sure Balmore is actually still alive. His public appearances were always rare, but it's been several years now since he last poked his head out. Scans of the facility show life signs, but not the kind we were expecting.
Your task is to find him and kindly but firmly remind him of his duties under the armistice. Then you search the embassy for his biometric key, collect your code piece, and we'll go about notifying his next of kin, if we can ever find them. But let's hope it doesn't come to that.
The embassy is still legally House Varun's sovereign territory, so we're not technically permitted inside. We've snuck in the occasional spy, of course, but the ambassador has proven more evasive than you'd expect for a man of his age. But we're quite sure he hasn't left the city. The man stands out. The Varun delegation brought more than a few of their native flora with them when they set up in the embassy. It seems those plants have been allowed to flourish, making it hard for us to verify what's flora and what's ambassador. It would at least be a speedier negotiation. But I, of course, hope the ambassador is alive and well.
Now, the embassy front door isn't an option, but our spies have stated there's a side entrance that should allow you access. Here, this device should get you all the way down to the embassy interior. Once you're inside, though, finding the ambassador is going to be up to you. And fair warning, we received a report that alarms might have been tripped inside the embassy during the attacks. Watch out for automated security in there.
Now, if you have additional questions or require clearance for a new approach we haven't already discussed, don't hesitate to ask. I'd suggest you start with Ambassador Radcliffe. Approach her while the attack is still fresh in her and her staff's mind. Be smart out there, Captain.
No dobra, i tu sobie zakończymy ten odcinek. Dzięki serdeczne za oglądanie, zostaw kciuka, subskrypcję, dzwoneczek, wbijaj do linków w opisie i miłego popołudnia. Cześć!